Hello, everyone. It is Friday. I'm Jeannie Walters, and we have another Experience Investigators Ask Me Anything session. Now, today we're going to be talking about common customer experience program pitfalls. And I'm sure that some of you have some examples and advice and questions and all of those wonderful things. So at this point, we have Paige from our team here today. Paige, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Now, I know it's Friday. We're in October. You and I are very Halloween coordinated.
Oh, yeah. It's my favorite holiday, so my house is decked out right now.
Nice. Nice. So, I would love to know what people are doing if they're celebrating the Halloween holiday. This is probably a little early, but it's going to be here before we know it. One of my friends puts on a huge haunted house. Unfortunately, they live far away, so I don't get to go. But the every year there's a theme, and this year the theme is Disney's Haunted Mansion,
Oh, fun.
and he's kind of tinkerer, so I think there will be some surprises. I always look forward to the videos afterwards because they do some amazing things. This is like their 10th year of doing something like this. So, yeah,
That's so cool. They just did a new Haunted Mansion movie too on
that's
Disney
right.
Plus. I haven't seen it yet, but my sister said it's great.
I watched it last weekend with my
Oh,
16-year-old, and we both enjoyed it. Yeah, it was fun.
yeah,
And it is like all the little things you notice about the ride, they kind of pay tribute to that. So that's fun too.
fun.
Yeah. So, well, we have a lot to cover today, but as people join us, please feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. We always love hearing that, and let us know what you're doing for Halloween if you celebrate, if that's something in your realm, and then let's talk about some mistakes for the purpose of not doing them, and for sharing some solutions to some of these things. So, I think we should go ahead and get started. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, excellent. Well, today, we want to talk about common program pitfalls. And I use that word program a little loosely because, when we talk about customer experience management, it is something that in an ideal world would be actually woven into everything that we do. It would be really a part of understanding how we operate, how we deliver for our customers, all of those things. But a lot of times it is approached as a customer experience program. Now, those of you who have been with me for a while know that the way I talk about customer experience management is that it's a mindset, it's a strategy, and it's a discipline. And so the discipline part is really the everyday actions that we take. How do we make this part of our business? What I'll be sharing today are some of the common things that I see with the clients that we work with and the different organizations that we speak to and interact with. And my hope is that you'll take these and really look for ways that you can address these things in your organization. And of course, we have resources for you as well. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeannie Walters. I am founder and CEO of Experience Investigators. And at Experience Investigators, our mission is to create fewer ruined days for customers. And we do that through empowering leaders like you. We really believe that the leaders like you who are on the ground, in the trenches, doing the work, you hold the keys to this. And so we want to give you the tools and the resources and even the language to speak to your leaders, to get that leadership buy in, and to get the support and resources you need to practice customer experience management as a mindset strategy discipline. So we're glad you're here. And one of the exciting things we've done in 2023 is launch our CXI Flight School. Now, Flight School is kind of part curriculum, part guided mentorship, part group coaching. And the idea is instead of just giving you information, or instead of really going in and partnering with you like we do with a lot of our consulting clients, this kind of fits in the middle. So if you are a leader who is looking to make real change in your program, if you are looking for ways to really get that foundational support that you need in order to achieve goals that your leadership cares about, that will move the needle for your organization, that will get the business results you want, then this could be a great program for you. The first 3 months we call ground school. This is where we really set you up with a mission, a success statement, and a charter. We launched this in 2023, and so far we have received really great feedback from the people involved. And we are really looking forward to introducing a new group to this program. So if this interests you, we actually are accepting applications through next week, and we will be launching soon for the next group. So please check that out. We would love to see you there. All right, so let's get to our topic. We had a little fun with this. So everything everywhere all at once. That's what it can feel like as a CX leader. So if you are new to customer experience management, or if you are one of those brave CX change agents in your organization who may not have the right title or the right place in the organization, but you see the value of this, you see the potential of it, and you're trying to make those changes, then this is for you. We know that you get a lot of different points of input. Leaders come to you with priorities, feedback offers priorities, people in other departments come up and say, you know what we should fix about the customer experience? And it can feel really challenging to prioritize time and resources. And on top of that, most customer experience teams are simply overworked, overwhelmed, and under resourced. We do not get the support that we typically should in order to make the real change that we want. So, one of the things that I've seen is that if we don't really call out when things aren't working, then people don't see it. Our leaders don't see that. So, today I'm going to highlight several things that are common mistakes because I want to set you up for success. So, here we go. First, we're going to talk about your CX mission statement. We're going to talk about those unattainable CX goals and what those look like. Putting CX in a silo. We're actually doing a whole webinar about this next Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, we can drop the registration in the chat. We also are talking about ignoring a customer feedback strategy. You'll notice the word strategy there. Overlooking micromoments, relying entirely on manual processes, and treating lost or former customers as strangers. So let's dig into these. The first mistake here is forgetting about our CX mission statement. And I say mission statement, but really this is about forgetting what we're doing for customers for real. And what I love about the work we do around developing mission statements with our different customer experience leaders is that this is about how do we show up for customers no matter what? And what are we really trying to do for them? So, for example, it's not enough to say that we provide a product or a service. What is that actually doing for them? Are they trying to achieve a goal? Are they trying to feel a certain way? Are they trying to complete something in order to do something else? One of the examples that I talk about are that, a lot of financial services organizations, and we work with quite a few, they have this idea that what they do is X, right? Like we are a safe place to put a customer's money. But that's not really what it's about. Why does a customer need a safe place? Well, I would argue two things there. One is we are helping our customers achieve bigger goals by taking care of their money, by giving them options to make money, by making sure that they have loans and lending opportunities, all of those things. But what are we that's not really about the money. It's about what they're trying to do with it. The other thing I would highlight is that every single bank in the world would say that they are a safe place to put money. So if your mission statement is about something like that, that is really just about the category or industry that you're in, then that's not really what we're looking for here. Once we get that guiding statement, and we have lots of different resources, Paige just dropped the CX mission statement workbook in the chat. We have all of these different ways because we have seen how powerful this is. And once you have that mission statement, you have alignment over your North Star. What are we really doing here? How are we living up to this for our customers? What happens when we don't live up to this mission? It makes those conversations so much more powerful and so much more strategic. And so this is where, when we talk about the mindset, strategy, discipline, this is about transforming the mindset in our organization. So if you don't have a mission statement, please go ahead and explore that. And if you do have one, make sure you're using it. How are you introducing it? How are you not ever forgetting about it? using it to make decisions and really realize what happens when we live up to it or exceed that mission, what happens when we don't. Those are great questions to ask your team. This next one could be number one, the setting unattainable CX goals. I have seen so many goals for CX teams that simply don't make a lot of sense. And sometimes it's simply about that customer feedback, right? We are told things like, well, it's our job to improve NPS. So the goal is actually to improve Net Promoter Score. However, most customer experience leaders do not have authority, accountability, or sometimes even influence over the groups and teams and processes that need to change in order to lift that feedback score. So, if we are agreeing as CX leaders to take on these goals, then we are already not set up for success. So, your goals have to be about what are the ways that we can help our organization move forward. Well, if that's, you know what, we know that improving NPS will improve customer retention, then let's talk about customer retention. What are the things that we can do? Where are the efforts that we can make to have an impact on customer retention? And if we don't have that accountability and authority, then how can we write that goal? Is it that we want to create a cross functional team? Is it that we want to centralize customer experience governance so that we can make more progress on the improvements that customers are telling us they want to see? Is it that we need a better customer relationship management system or a better customer feedback system? Sometimes we really need to back up and think about what are the steps in order to get to that goal. And when we're talking about time bound goals, meaning within the next year or 3 years, then we really want to get real here. We want to set realistic goals around what does that mean? If we need a new customer relationship management system, we don't want to just say, oh, we'll get a new CRM. We need to do research. We need to make sure we understand the requirements. We need to price and budget and all of those things. And then there's the whole onboarding of it. So get real about the baby steps that you need to take in order to achieve that goal. But if we are taking on the goal of improving feedback metrics, think hard about if that's realistic. Because after a while, a lot of times they stagnate until we make big changes. So, knowing that, you might not have the authority to make those big changes. Be real about that. Paige just dropped in the CX success statement. That is a tool we use to really break down what are your organizational goals? What do your leaders care about? What are their goals? And how can our efforts support that? And most critically, how do we measure success? If we don't know the answer to that, if we're saying things like our goal is to be friendlier or to provide wow moments or to just be more customer centric, we need to really define what that means. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I see plenty of customer experience leaders who have goals like that. And then after a while, their leaders start looking around saying, well, I'm not really seeing changes. I don't really understand why this would serve the organization. We're having a hard year. And so this doesn't make sense. So set yourself up for success by really speaking like a business leader about your customer experience goals. Now, this is another one, putting CX in a silo. Now, customer experience is one of the most, I think, fascinating, creative, innovative, and challenging places to be when we are talking about organizational structure. Customer experience doesn't live in the same place in every org chart. It doesn't even interact with the same teams in every org chart. And so we need to make sure that we are understanding the holistic customer journey. So we have to understand our customer's journey. And then we also have to understand who and where are the team members who can really help us impact that journey. That's a very cross-functional approach. So if we are basically relegated to a place where our entire world is about collecting feedback, or our entire world is about one part of the journey, then we're missing the opportunity to really make an impact for our customers and, frankly, to live up to that mission that we have for them. So if we are trying to really embrace CX, we have to expand our purview. We have to make sure that we are communicating throughout the organization, that we are reporting on success, that we are explaining the numbers with context so that we don't become what I call number narrators. We are encouraging and engaging everybody in the organization to be a part of this. Sometimes when I speak within organizations, they'll invite a bunch of people and we'll talk about customer experience. And almost to a one, when I speak to an entire organization, somebody comes up to me afterwards and says, I'm in invoicing, I'm in service delivery, I am in maintenance or facilities. And I've never thought that I was part of customer experience, but now I see how I am. We cannot relegate this to just the customer facing individuals. Every single person in your organization has influence over customer experience. As CX leaders within the organization, we need to communicate that. We need to work on that cultural change. We need to make sure that we are really uh, making sure that we have enough ownership over what we're doing so that we have that influence. We can go to those different teams and say, I need your help here. Or, you know what? I want to show you what happened when you made those changes. Customers are really happy. We should celebrate that too. So, this is about a big cultural change in many organizations. This does not happen overnight, but the more that we can bust out of that silo, the better off we will be. Number 4, ignoring your customer feedback strategy. Now, you'll notice that word at the end here. I really believe that we are sometimes guilty of wasting a lot of customer time and a lot of our time asking for feedback that we do not act on. And we ask for feedback that we do not act on because we don't have a true customer feedback strategy. We basically have agreed that we're going to listen to customers or have feedback. But if we don't have an action plan before we ask that feedback, if we don't have a goal for why we're asking that feedback, then basically we're doing it just because we're curious and we're not respecting the customer in that moment. If we are asking for feedback that we have no plan on acting on, then we are basically just asking for them to, give us their time with absolutely no reason. And so I really believe that we have to look at customer feedback as a strategy because today the reality is here. There is way too much feedback gathering. Customers have told us again and again they have survey fatigue. They feel like nobody's listening. They often will share something and nothing happens. They do not close the loop. That just chips away at trust with our customers. So make sure you're thinking about your overall feedback strategy in a way that is part of the customer journey. When we ask for feedback, that is an act of engagement with our customers. We should treat it like it. We should make sure we're asking for feedback as part of the customer journey, not something that is just kind of ad hoc, whoever wants to ask feedback. We need to really capture this and make sure we're acting on it, communicating within our organization, closing the loop there, and also closing the loop with those customers who provide that feedback for us. It is absolutely valuable, but we need to treat it with the respect that it deserves. And that means really making sure we have a strategy, we have a plan, we have a way to really do this. And then we also want to look at micro moments. Now, I started talking about this more than 10 years ago now when I did a TEDx talk on micro moments. I really believe that as CX leaders, we have a wonderful opportunity here. We will often hear about the big things. We often will praise the big things. But when we have something that is small, maybe not enough to drive somebody away, maybe not enough to even get a complaint, I call them meh moments, right? These are the moments where, yeah, they weren't great, but whatever. Um, it's a moment of neglect. And I think most customers will tell you that in many brand relationships that they have, they don't necessarily feel mistreated, but they might feel neglected. And this is an opportunity. We want to be proactive about turning those neutral or meh or neglected moments, those small moments, into something positive. So think about the ways that we, for instance, give people confirmations. If somebody submits an order, do we send a boring confirmation? That could actually be a moment to celebrate, to really show the customer how much you care about them. Uh, if you are standing in line, this is a great example. If you're standing in line at an amusement park, many of them figured out, you know what, the line can be an experience. So figuring out what can we do to make that moment a little better. What can we do when we're asking for an invoice? How do we treat that moment? How do we treat all those little moments that they're fine, but if we spent just a smidge more time on making them more creative, more understanding, more empathetic, more humorous, then that would actually improve the entire journey and the perception of the brand that our customer has. I love micro moments because I think they can make a big difference, especially because I really see this as a way to either build or erode trust. So think about every single little moment and how each one of those is an opportunity to either put more positivity in that emotional bank that we have with our customers, or it's an opportunity to neglect them essentially. So don't overlook your micro moments. And then we also want to really think big right now. We are living in a really exciting world with AI and with machine learning and with all of these new tools that are available to us. And yet, I still see a lot of teams who are just kind of doing it the way they've always done it, right? They are still relying on very manual processes. They are just not taking advantage of some of the things that are available. Many of the tools that you probably already use have some of this capability. They have new features. Make sure that you're looking and exploring those features and seeing what can you use in your organization. How can you leverage technology, leverage new ways of thinking to speed things up for customers, to make sure that you are providing the right information for the right person at the right time in the customer journey? How can you personalize things for customers in a bigger way? All of those things, when they're done manually, are somewhat limited. We cannot scale those things. But if we take advantage of some of the things that are available today, then we can really look to scale that feeling of personalization, to scale the way that we are providing support and knowledge bases for our contact center agents and our frontline workers, making sure that we're making the employee experience a little easier in those moments. So, really don't be scared of this. Look for ways that you can lean into the technology available, lean into the ways that you can automate things as long as it's aligned with that mission, with that journey, and with that personalization and respect for your customer. And then this one is I've been talking about this for so long and we still do it all the time. And this is really where we treat lost or former customers like strangers. So it could be that you had a long relationship with a product or brand and then you decided, "Oh, I'm going to try something else." You switch for a while. And all of a sudden you start getting those prospecting postcards again, right? You start getting they just dump you back into the prospect bucket and act like they didn't ever know you. And I just think, especially in B2B and some other relationships, this happens a lot because it's either you're a customer or you're not. We need to make sure that we're looking at customer relationships as relationships. Now, think about if you had a friend who hung out with all the time, and then one of you moved to a different city. Well, you might not talk as much, but when you do connect, you don't act like you've never met them before. And that's how we treat former customers sometimes. So make sure that you have a way to really recognize the relationship that you have with customers, not all throughout the life cycle, not like, you know what, if you're not a customer, then we've never known you. We really want to respect this. This is also a great strategy for win back, right? There are a lot of win back campaigns out there. We want to make sure that we are treating that customer who was a customer with us as a friend, as somebody we know, in order to build enough trust again. So if the opportunity arises, they're more likely to do business with us again. All right. So, 7 common mistakes that we see: forgetting your CX mission statement, setting unattainable CX goals, putting CX in a silo, ignoring your customer feedback strategy, overlooking micro moments, relying entirely on manual processes, or telling or treating lost or former customers as strangers. So, I'm sure that some of this you look at and you say, oh, we're really good at that. We don't have to worry about that. But maybe one or two of these will inspire you to think about, where can we put in a little effort? How can we make sure that we are really delivering on behalf of our customers and behalf of our organization? And at the end of the day, customer experience is absolutely a winning business strategy. It is really about understanding our customers, making sure that we're delivering for them so that it leads to business outcomes, business results. But a lot of the mistakes we make actually prevent some of those results. They make it harder to achieve those results. So if you're thinking about this as where do we invest? Where do we invest our time, our resources? Think about what will make the biggest impact on achieving your business results, because that's when you can really get that leadership buy-in. That's when you can really ask for the support and the resources and the advocacy that you might need in order to get the tools that you need, in order to get the technology investments or whatever. So make sure that you are really thinking about this in a big way for both your customers and your organization. So I'd love to hear from you about maybe other mistakes that you see, or what are the steps you're taking for success, or just if you have questions. So Paige, how are we doing on questions?
We actually do have one question already. How can
Awesome.
we make sure goals are clearly defined?
Good question. So this is where I would say, let's go ahead and make sure that we are looking at the customer experience success statement. That is really a way to help you define your goals in a way that is powerful. If you have goals that you look at and somebody could say, well, how do we know if you're successful? And you don't have an answer to that, if you don't have a business answer to that. And what I mean by that is, I see a lot of customer experience people who say, well, we'll know we're successful when the customer is in the center of everything we do. And that's a wonderful aspiration. However, if you are talking to a board, if you are talking to your shareholders, if you are talking to your leadership, that is not a good enough answer. We have to get clear about what that means. Does that mean a certain percentage of teams is using a certain way of decision making? Does that mean that within your financials, you are seeing certain things go up and down? Does that mean in your operational metrics that you're seeing customers behave a certain way? Really get clear on what success looks like, and then define that. Define what success looks like to you. So if you have more questions, please keep them coming. Paige, how we doing?
Okay, next up. What key steps should we take to move our CX from reactive to
Mm.
proactive? Great one.
I love this question because this is like my jam, right? So the key steps, one is be intentional. And that sounds so basic, but what that means is, instead of having a customer experience kind of program that really is just reacting to the inputs that you get, you need to get very clear and intentional about your strategy. Those 3 documents that I talked about, the mission statement, the success statement, and the charter, can all help you do that. One of the things that's part of that charter discussion is a priority matrix, because what I see is that customer experience teams get pulled in so many directions, get spread so thin, that really the only thing that they feel true control over, something tangible, are those customer feedback metrics, because they can at least report those out. But we need to give context to that. So instead of just saying, hey, our NPS went up or down, or our customer satisfaction went up or down, or our customer effort score, whatever combination you use, make sure that you're starting with, as you remember, our goal is to increase customer retention by X, or we are trying to convert more first time buyers into second time buyers. Whatever the business outcome is, Start with that and then build your business case around that. That is number one in being proactive. The other thing about being proactive is exactly as it sounds. We want to build a proactive customer journey. That means instead of just saying, oh, this is what happens to customers because of our processes, we want to actually think about what would be ideal for the customer and then build processes and systems and employee behaviors that actually support that journey, not the other way around. That's another really great way to be proactive. So, those are the two things I would say. One is get your foundational pieces really clear so that you have that alignment, so that you know how to prioritize. And if you can, design that customer journey in a very powerful, intentional, proactive way, because then that will guide your priorities as well. Great question. Love that question.
Great. Yeah. From Alex Mejia, any thoughts on culture shifting to get the buy-in from the whole org? Another
Mhm.
great
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I wish we had a magic wand for this, right? This is so challenging. And one of the things that's really interesting about this work that we all do is that, a lot of newer organizations have actually built themselves around proactive customer journeys. They have started from there. So it's part of the culture. And newer, I mean the last couple of decades. But if you're working in a large organization, a legacy organization, for a long time, sometimes decades, sometimes a century or more, customer experience was not even part of the equation because it didn't have to be, because customers didn't have a say, because they could, there weren't as many options in the marketplace. The pain of switching, right? It used to be a total pain to switch your bank or your credit card or your phone or all these different things. So that actually held customers as kind of captured resources. So it's a whole thing where now we're saying, no, that worked for a long time, but it's not going to work anymore. That is part of the discussion, is part of like the education. So one thing I like to say is make sure you are empowering and educating. So what that means is that every time you are asked to report out your numbers, every time you have a dashboard, every time you have an opportunity to actually speak with a different group, go ahead and educate about what customer experience can really do for the organization. We need to make it a win, win, win. And what I mean by that is it's a win for customers, it's a win for employees, and it's a win for the organization and the leaders. So if you're speaking to your leaders, think about what motivates them. Your chief financial officer is really interested in lowering expenses and getting that revenue higher. So, what can you talk about? Well, if you're doing root cause analysis because of something that is happening with customer service, you can say, you know what, if we get this right, what that means is we'll be able to lower service costs over here. Sometimes I say that the customer experience math is just harder. We have to connect these dots in a way that a lot of departments and teams don't. It's very easy to understand things like sales, right? More sales equals more revenue. Cool. With customer experience, we have to make a case that, okay, if we are losing customers, what does that really mean in dollars and cents? If we can improve customer retention by less than 1% in some cases, can mean millions of dollars for an organization. But we have to start connecting those dots. So wherever you're talking or communicating, think of it as education and empowerment. What can we do for that individual, that team, to make them feel like it's a win for them? And then once we see those changes, we also have to celebrate the heck out of them. We have to communicate that. We have to make sure that we're showing everybody, wow, look what happened because this team worked on it. We really are serving for our customers. And then if you do have dashboards or reports, make sure you're including what I call the real voice of the customer. Instead of just graphs, just numbers, we want to make sure that people are hearing and experiencing the real stories of our customers. You can do this a couple of different ways. One is using actual call recordings is always very powerful, videos from customers, or if you just have a great story of how you maybe overcame something for a customer. That is really what moves people to understand that these aren't just numbers. This isn't just something we're talking about. This affects people's real lives. And that, at the end of the day, is what all of us are doing. If you have a customer, you are impacting somebody's life. And we should never forget that. Even in B2B, sometimes I get that question. Yes, even in B2B, we have to look at every single customer as that individual. So sharing both the quantitative information and that really powerful emotional, uh, storytelling can be very powerful in that culture change as well. So really make sure you're educating and empowering, make sure you're including storytelling, and also just make sure that you are kind of celebrating and communicating as much as you can with those various teams. It is not an overnight process. It takes some time. One of the things that I've kind of gotten a kick out of is some customer experience directors get very, very creative here about how they measure success. So, one of the things that I saw was actually having a net promoter score for the different teams that you're trying to influence. Maybe doing a before and after. What do you understand about customer experience now? And then, after working with them for a while, do another one. That gives you real time feedback about if you're actually getting through and making that culture change too. All very exciting stuff. So, yeah, good luck with that, and it's no small feat.
Yeah, we hear about it all the time, don't we? It's
We
definitely a
do.
huge hurdle.
Mhm.
Another question we have, we can't implement every change that a customer requests. How do we close the loop on feedback we can't do anything about?
Yeah, we've gotten this a couple times. I mean, honestly, closing the loop does not mean solving the problem. It means that I'm going to respect you enough to let you know where we are. And so sometimes what that means is, oh gosh, I hear you. I understand your frustration. Unfortunately, we can't change that because of XYZ, or we don't have plans to address that until XYZ. What I always like to say though is if there is a workaround, if there is some way that we can help them make it easier or more pleasant, then we should think about that. A lot of the challenges that I see with customer experience work is that we don't see communication handled the right way. Every single time we do a journey mapping workshop, every single time there is some element of communication that everybody agrees could be handled better. And so look for those moments and say, you know what? We know that this technology is not going to change, right? Like we don't have plans to change that technology. That's just the way it works. However, what we can do is, and that's a great way to close the loop. We also sometimes can't make every customer happy, but it's still respectful to actually react to what they're asking for. So if you have, you know, pieces like that that are floating out there that nobody wants to address simply because it's awkward or because it's hard to tell customers no, come up with a game plan on here's what we can do. Sometimes what that means is offering something like an extra, retribution. So that could be a coupon, that could be a discount, something like that. Sometimes what that means is saying, we are working on it. I would love to let you know when things are updated. And when this happens, it blows customers' minds because they have told you something maybe months ago, right? And then you fix it and you reach out again and say, hey, you were one of the customers who asked us for this. Great news. It's available to you now. If you personalize that message, and again, you can do this at scale with automation, but if you personalize that message, customers feel like, oh my gosh, they heard me, they remembered me, and now they're acknowledging me. It's amazing. So when you have the opportunity to do that, keep track of those customers so that you can follow up if you are actively involved in improving something. But never be afraid of just telling the customer you heard them. And even if there's nothing you can do, say, we heard you. Here's what we are doing. Here's what we aren't doing. I'm sorry that happened. Sometimes that's enough for somebody to feel like they've been heard, and really just acknowledging the customer because they took the time to tell you something. That means they have enough loyalty, they have enough emotional attachment that they want you to know. Otherwise, they would have walked away. So let's respect them enough to respond to whatever feedback we get.
Great one. Okay, so Rosacita wants to know, how do you ensure that you implement the right technology to improve customer experience efficiency?
Mm. Oh, technology, right? It's so easy. It makes everything so easy. I would say, first of all, get clear again on your goals because I have seen a lot of investment in technology that actually does not really improve the customer experience, does not improve the efficiency that you're talking about. So there are several tools that we have available that can help you with this. One is if you know your ideal customer journey and you know kind of where you want to take the customer journey, then the next step for that is a service blueprint. And that really outlines what are the processes, what are the systems, what are the employee behaviors that need to happen in order to deliver on that ideal customer journey. If you have the time and the bandwidth to really go through that, that is really, really powerful because then you'll be able to look at the requirements that you need for technology. I like to say, I mean, start with your purpose, start with your goals, and then let the technology support that. If you start with technology, it's very easy to get kind of overwhelmed, and so many features are available and it can get very exciting. But we really want to look at what are we trying to do and how will the technology support that. So that's where I would start is ideal customer journey and then the service blueprint. And that will give you the requirements that you need in order to really explore what technology can support you. No small task though.
For sure. Alex is back with another great one. What would
Excellent.
you recommend about practical feedback management strategies when we're talking about hundreds or thousands of customers?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say, there are different kind of automations you can use to close the loop, which can be very effective. But again, only ask when you want to know. We spend a lot of time sending out all these questions because a leader came to us and said, "You know what I'm curious about? I would love to know if the customer does this. I would love to know if they want our logo to be green." So that's one thing is get real about kind of what's most important to include in feedback. And then the other thing is we have all these great ways of kind of proactively positioning feedback now so that it's up to the customer to like in the moment, they can find a way to give us feedback. That can be really great because then we're not just relying on reaction, we're relying on those moments that they're in the like the mobile app. And then I would also say look for if you really want to know something, look for micro ways to ask. So there are things that are about like help us decide X or Z. You could do that in one question and then incentivize them through something that is that makes them feel good about the organization. That can be a really great way to proactively engage with customers around feedback, but it also gives you the actual feedback that you want in order to move forward. I think we spend a lot of time, energy, and money sending out way too many questions, way too many surveys, and it's because we are just doing it because we're curious. Get a plan of action before you ask anything. Can you actually change the thing you're asking about? Are you trying to gauge if it's worth changing? That's a really valid thing to explore. But then stop asking once you've made that decision. So I think a lot of feedback is about kind of deciding what's the outcome we're looking for and how can we do it in the most practical way. The other thing I'll say is and I know some of my market research folks don't love this answer, but I also really believe that storytelling and anecdotal data is still data. And so what that means is that if we are only tracking, exactly the different numbers and trying to achieve that for our leaders, but we're not including those stories. We're not looking at those stories as valid when we hear complaints, when we hear kind of the things that sound a little off. We need to investigate those. We need to make sure that we are looking at that because that can be the canary in the coal mine. That can be something that is minor right now, but could blow up later. So make sure you're paying attention to those anecdotal things that are bubbling up to the top that are either like, whoa, that shouldn't have happened, or those things where somebody's so over the top happy. How can you use what worked and put it in more places in your journey? How can you make sure that others know how to behave to get that kind of reaction? So really look for what are you going to do with the feedback first, and then reel it back if you need to. I think, part of why it's overwhelming is because we just have too much going on. So reel it back and think about, what are we really trying to do here? How does it fit into the customer journey? And how will we close the loop with the customer and act on it here in the organization? So that's a general answer. Every feedback strategy is a little different. So if you have further questions, you can of course reach out, or actually ask on our podcast, right? We've got
Yeah,
our experience action podcast where you can leave me voicemails. So don't forget, you can go there and leave me voicemails as well.
we love them. Absolutely. Mohammed would like to know, when measuring the impact of improvement, they found that they had addressed the issue they were targeting, but the change came with new challenges. Is that
Mhm.
considered a failure?
Oh, no, 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 no. I mean, this is what it's all about. We don't know what's going to work all the time. So sometimes we have to try stuff. And a lot of times what happens is we make an adjustment on this part of the journey and we accidentally break something over here that we didn't even know about, or maybe that actually, needed more attention because this part of the journey actually impacted this and we didn't expect that. So all of that is valid. We just need to look at it as, you know what? This is part of what we're doing. We are constantly evolving and improving the customer journey. And part of that is based on the feedback we get. And part of that is based on the support we get. And part of that, frankly, is just part of innovation, right? I like to talk about experiential innovation. We believe that's part of our framework, our CXI Navigator framework, because we're doing all of this work around collecting feedback, around interacting with customers, around planning and journey mapping and all these things. We're doing that so we can stay ahead. And sometimes innovation is messy. Sometimes there are things that don't work the first time. Sometimes we have to try things out because we are the first ones in the market to do it. That is all very, very valid. And that's how organizations that did get ahead through experience, that's how they did it. So think about how I like to say every big disruptor of the last decade plus was experience based. Airbnb, Uber, Zappos, Amazon, you name it. They were not selling new products, they were selling a new way to interact with those products and services. That was all experience driven. And so we have to try things out sometimes. We have to actually explore or pilot or A B test. That is not a failure at all. And in fact, I would say that part of what the success is that if you are collecting that feedback, if you are getting those numbers, you can say, hey, we found this out a lot earlier than we would have if we weren't collecting feedback, if we weren't looking at those operational metrics. But because we're paying attention, we are able to pivot. We are able to try something new. So I applaud you, Mohammed. You need to just like own that success, because sometimes getting something a little wrong actually means that we're going to get the long term a lot right. So just keep doing what you're doing, make sure you're tracking, and again, we need to give context to those numbers. So if we see a dip and we know that something happened, we need to give context to our leaders about that through explaining, we tried this, we're going to try this next, here's what we expect. So good luck, and I think it's awesome that you're doing that.
I think that wraps up our questions, but we
Awesome.
definitely have more to tell them about.
We do indeed. So we have a couple cool things going on here at Experience Investigators. First of all, if you haven't taken the CXI Compass, it's a totally free resource for you. It's a way to really see where you are on your journey, and it's based on our CXI Navigator. After you take this, we send you a bunch of resources based on your score and where we think you could maybe start prioritizing. So check that out. We really think we've gotten some great feedback on it. We launched that in 2023 as well. So we've had a big year this year. So the other thing, flight school, we are accepting applications. So don't forget, yes, yay, that
Hey, quite
we
cool.
a flight school that you get some mentorship with me. We walk through the tools. The idea is that we are building with you so that you will walk away from ground school with a mission statement, a success statement, and then we help you with the charter. And then after ground school, we go over a whole bunch of other things like journey mapping, service blueprinting, which I just talked about, organizational alignment, getting leadership buy-in, all the things that we see that are about building the right framework for your organization. And what I'm really loving about it is that it is very customizable based on the people involved. So if you are in an organization and you're not sure where to start with this is a great resource for you, and we would love to see you there. So applications are open. They close next Friday, right?
Yeah, so soon.
The 27th. And then we mentioned the podcast. If you want to leave me a message, you can go to askjeannie.vip and just leave me a voicemail. If you want to tell me who you are, that's great. We will let you know when your episode is live. If you want to be anonymous and mysterious, that's okay too. We get a lot of those. You can literally ask me anything within the realm of customer experience or employee experience or customer experience leadership, anything you want, and I will answer it in an episode. So we answer one question an episode. If you haven't already checked that out, we have fun on that too. We use some fun sound effects, and it's fun to listen to as well,
We also
in my
have
humble
CX
opinion.
Pulse Check. We have Pulse Check as well that we're
That's
starting.
right.
Yeah, so that's another podcast that Jeannie and I have done a couple times now, but it just talks about what's hot and new and happening in the CX world. So,
and that's part of Experience Action. So if you're subscribed to Experience Action, you'll get that audio. But then if you go to our YouTube, you'll also see Paige and I talking about some of the latest and greatest kind of examples of customer experience innovation and some other things. So check that out as well. And then the other thing that we want to tell you about is this
the webinar.
Webinar. Thank you. Oh my gosh. So we're talking about silos, not just breaking down silos in your kind of customer experience and your customer journey, but also within your organization so that CX doesn't get stuck in a silo. So we're going to cover a lot of ground about gaining that influence, getting that leadership buy-in, and creating a strategy to really get to that real change that we all want within our organizations. So Paige, I think we have that link. We can drop into the chat.
I've already plopped it in there. Check it out. It's got all that information on the page that Jeannie's on right now, and we would love to see you there.
Yep, definitely. And if you want to check out Flight School as well, you can also just go to cxiflightschool.com. Here's where you would actually apply. It's an easy application, I promise. But we just want to make sure it's a good fit for everybody. And this tells you a little bit more about the program and everything else. So we would love to see you there. But otherwise, I just want to commend you all again, because you are really living the leadership role that is so important in your organization. And so we are here, like I said, to live our mission. And that mission is to create fewer ruined days for customers. You being here and helping, take these tools forward, taking the actions we talked about, asking these great questions. By being here with us, you help us live that mission. So thank you so much for being here. Our next LinkedIn Live will be November 17th. So go ahead and mark that on your calendar. We'll get information out about that soon. But otherwise, I hope to see you at the webinar next week. I hope to hear your questions on our podcast. And I would love to see you in Flight School. So feel free to reach out. Keep doing what you're doing and keep putting your customers first and living that mission. So thank you for helping us live ours. Have a great weekend, anybody, and we'll see you later.